Old man random thought number 19. Here again, I put the graphic up for the first bunch of seconds of the videos to see if I can get the machinery at YouTube's end to grab it and use it as a thumbnail. Well, I've just encountered a problem associated with a lot of production, and that is having everything disappear. I had, I think, about 12 minutes worth of really good stuff. But somehow I lost it, and the editor. I don't think it was the editor's fault. I think I pushed the wrong button. Anyway, it's all learning, isn't it? Another day in Vilcabamba in southern Ecuador. The clouds are pretty thick. You know, I don't remember the weather being like this in previous years, but I usually don't remember specifics like that. But I have asked other people, I said, you know, isn't it more cloudy than it used to be? And sure enough, they agree. Who knows? We have to accept what we get. So anyway, I had this great thing. What I was doing was I was talking to AI. It is highly seductive. I had AI describe, or I had AI role play as God. I said, I want to interview God. And the AI, I don't know whatever the default on the browser is, I had it sound more like God. I tell you, it starts out sounding, probably sounding about right to a teenager or something. It sounds a little ridiculous to me. Very condescending and sycophantic, but I guess that's what the public wants, and the AI people have figured that out. Anyway, I told it, be more godlike, and it really surprised me at what I was after was, is there a edge of cosmology, physics explanation for a possible afterlife, for the existence of our consciousness beyond our physical bodies. And there's an interesting basis for it. It includes Stephen Hawking's theories on information coming out of a black hole, and other theories regarding an underlying information structure which the physical is built upon. That there is somehow information existing on its own outside of a physical structure to encode it. DNA, RNA, for instance, is the encoding of instructions to create proteins which go on to become larger beings, just like me, and you probably. But that underlying information doesn't go away, and the AI explained to me that it was somehow permanent, but it's ethereal, it's not physical, which is kind of strange, but there seems to be something about information as such which has an existence. For instance, I brought back an issue of Science magazine from the States a couple of years ago. Anything that goes in a suitcase has to be considered quite valuable because everything's heavy. But this issue had a fascinating article about related to entropy. Everything seems to be related to entropy, the way the universe decays, the way things become less organized, and eventually the universe dies out because there's no heat, called the heat death of the universe, but there's also no structure. But that the DNA and RNA are attempts to delay entropy's destruction of order. And that if you wanted to look for life in the universe, you'd look for little islands that were denying entropy, little islands where there was a skirmish and drop back battle against entropy, the decay, the inevitable end of everything. And it's done by the fundamental principle of life on this planet, which is everything dies. Everything dies. Before it dies, and I'll testify to this, it starts to become less organized, less complex, less functional, really, because the complexity gives function. So nature's solution is, and always has been, and maybe it's the only way to do it, is to create temporary strongholds against entropy, to recreate, to reproduce. So the new life is starting with the blueprints, revised, of course. Mom and Dad contributed to that. But it's a new construction. Ideally, the baby starts out 100%, according to the plan, the DNA, and, they live a nice long life. And at the end of it, they're starting to come apart. I'm familiar with that part. And the way for life to continue is not by them. Nature says, no, this entity is just going to become less and less organized, and it's not going to last too much longer, so we're going to reproduce. And the new one will be fresh, starting with all the new equipment and everything working fine, and it will decay over time. It's amazing that is the principle everywhere. Why wouldn't nature have attempted to, maybe it did, attempt to repair something? You get this wonderful life form and it's swimming around in the ocean, and entropy starts to attack it and decay the structure. And nature says, all right, we'll repair this thing. Isn't it like a car, an old car? You've got a car, you loved it, you drove it 250,000 miles, and there's no mechanic who wants to touch it because they say this thing has done its utmost. It's gone 100%. It ain't going to go any further. Why don't you give it to the junkyard, if they'll take it, and get another one? In other words, start fresh. Nature decided a long time ago, apparently, that that's the only thing that works. I'm fascinated with entropy, and I have to say, I do not understand the concept very much. Veritasium is one of the best channels on YouTube, and the thing grew so much, and the gentleman that started it and hosted it was so very good at explaining things, and he attacked the job of explaining entropy a couple of times. I'm going to have to go back and look at it again. It starts to become the fundamental principle in the reality that we experience, that it is related to the passage of time, or perception of time anyway, the decay of things. The analogy is you can drop an egg, it hits the floor and cracks and opens up and the egg is all over the floor. You can't replay that. You've gone from order, structure, to disorder, and something unstructured, and it cannot go back. The arrow of time moving in one direction. Anyway, it's something to ponder if you want to ponder things. I'm really disappointed that this video that I created this morning to be Old Man Random Thought number 19 crashed. It died a-borning. It ain't going to happen. Like I said, the AI's responses to things is very interesting. It presented a very interesting theological, by way of physics, explanation for a possible afterlife. After that, I got silly. It said, do you want to do something else? And I said, yeah, let's be romantic. Why don't you pretend you're a woman that's madly in love with me? And it did that, and it did its description of initiating foreplay. And I said, okay, that's good. Why don't you rewrite that one in the style of Dashiell Hammett, who wrote a lot of mystery stories? And I said, okay, I'll do it. And sure enough, there it was, that mystery writer that whose prose I'm familiar with, one of the greatest writers of the last century, I think. And then I said, well, that was cool. Could you do the same thing, only in the voice and style of Ernest Hemingway? And I did that too. So I'm really interested in that. I think I'm going to have it do one of the books of the Bible in the style of, let's see, Raymond Chandler. That would be good. Another mystery writer. All right, well, if you've survived this much, you're pretty tough. I'll be back with number 20 as soon as I can, if me and the editor get along. Thanks for coming along. We'll see you later. Ciao.